We are pleased to welcome our presenter for today, Deborah Burlington, Rob Lowe, and Dr. Kelly Johnston. This webinar is live and interactive. You're encouraged to participate by posting questions to the presenter, which can be typed into the chat box located at the bottom left-hand side of your screen. All questions will be answered throughout and at the end of the presentation. If you're experiencing audio difficulty during the webinar, please dial the 1-800 support number listed in the chat box. I'll now hand you over to Kelly.
Hi everyone, and welcome to SIA's first webinar in a series on our SIA Mentoring Program. My name is Dr. Kelly Johnston and I'm the current chair of the SIA College of Fellows, and it's my pleasure to host today's webinar session. The webinar is titled The Language of Coaching, Training and Mentoring, and it's our first in a series of webinars on the mentoring program, and it aims to provide some introductory information to those who are currently mentors as well as those wishing to become mentors within the program. We have two presenters today, Deborah Burlington and Rob Lowe, and I'll just provide a brief introduction to our two speakers, and then I'll hand over to Deborah to start off today's webinar. So Deborah Burlington established Enhanced Solutions along with a business partner in 2004. Her vision was to offer a service which addressed complex issues such as enterprise risk management, workplace health and safety, and learning and change in a fun and practical manner. A key emphasis was on partnership with rather than expert to. Deborah has key skills in the creation and implementation of cultural change, which has a strong emphasis on the development of safety leaders within a business. She is known as a dynamic workshop facilitator who designs and facilitates workshops that are practical, fun and highly interactive in areas ranging from communication skills through to safety leadership. Deborah holds a grad dip in OHS management, a grad dip in business management and a degree in social work. She is a certified master NLP practitioner and coach and a fellow of the Safety Institute of Australia. In terms of Rob Lowe, he is an Aussie dad with 3 kids who treasures the relationship with his wife. He loves superhero movies. In his time of need, he found out he had a mind that did not want to quit. He built a mindset fitness regime that keeps him sustainable and functioning to obtain the maximum out of his life. He designed the Success Superpowers to be able to share it with others. Creator of the Safety Superhero series and the Congruent Life Leader, he loves stretching the mindsets of organisational leaders to find their version of the leadership that will deliver optimum performance. He practices old-style leadership, respect, integrity, and being consistently persistent and congruent to who he is, now that he knows that well. And he is a leading advocate for the progression of the workplace health and safety profession. For more than 20 years, Rob Lowe has been managing, leading and shaping cultures in the workplace, and more recently, loving the life of raising his own family. Rob believes that as a result of the way our society has been shaped over the last 4 decades, that we've become lazy thinkers. We have become obese in the mindset. That is, we take in lots of information and believe that this enlarging of our mindset means we are taking action in the world. It is time to trim away the fat of information that is weighing you down. It's time to get mindset fit, to best use every resource you have and build them into your success superpowers. Rob has been the driving force, designer and leader of the SIA Mentor Program. So I would like to hand over now to Deborah, who's going to start off our webinar today.
Hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We're really excited to have our first webinar today, and Rob is going to be the main presenter, and I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction, having a look at the language of coaching, training and mentoring, just giving you a little bit of an overview or an experience that I had going through these different processes. So my experience was I was working with another health and safety practitioner, and they were wanting to learn how to facilitate a particular program. So when I thought about what would be the progression through that, my first step was to ask her to come along to the training program and actually allow me to train her in the training program itself. So she became a student and part of the training program, and I sort of was a trainer. And then, of course, she grasped material really easily and quickly, and then we moved into a coaching relationship where it became a two-way dance, and I was able to give her ongoing feedback about how she was doing, and then she'd ask me specific questions. So it's very much a coaching, shaping experience. And then when she was fully fledged, of course, we went into a mentoring stage where when she needs a little bit of shaping, where she's not quite sure how to approach a particular area that I've got some expertise in, that's when I will help her with the mentoring phase. So that was sort of like an example for me where we moved through the different phases, and we moved between each of the three as well, depending on where she's up to in her development. So that's just a quick example and overview, and I'm sure Rob's pretty right to go ahead and move into the content of the webinar. So can I hand it over to you, Rob?
Awesome, great. How do we know how many people we've got listening? Oh, there's a few listed on the side there. Excellent. Oh, a few people I do know. Welcome everyone. Oh, that's a lot of people. That's really exciting to have that many people on the Mentor webinar call. I've just been asked to see if I can get my webcam working. So while I'm talking to you, I'm in the process of that. So if you see my beautiful face pop up, you'll understand why. Opportunity to talk to you guys today about Train Coach Mentor and about language. Something that over the last 5 years, when my pure personal growth journey began, was about 5 years ago, after being in safety for I think 6 or 7 years. And I got to a point in my personal life that there was things going on, but I also got to a point in my safety career where I was working inside an organisation that was very much focused on zero harm, and it was an organisation that was doing really well in relation to our traditional ways of measuring safety. And so I sort of was looking for the next step, and out I went into the world researching, and I deliberately chose coaching because I thought there has to be, we always talk about these words about enrolling, engaging, and getting people in and all this sort of stuff, that this is what we've got to do for our culture. And I thought that's all well and good, but how do we actually get this done? And so what I thought was something for me professionally turned out to be something huge for me personally, and I took this path of growth. And it's really enlightened me, and I guess really awakened me up to how we use language. And I've been in the adult learning or adult education, sphere for about 16 years. I remember getting my first cert for in 1999 for workplace training and assessing. And that time I was training people how to ride quad bikes and spread herbicides. So I've been doing this for quite some time. And it's really triggered in me that when you're delivering yourself, when you're having that kind of relationship where there is an information exchange, and the intention of the exchange is to help the other person, grow, leap, foster their development, that our language becomes highly, highly important. And so today I'm going to share with you the story of Train Coach Mentor. And it's very subtle, the differences that we see in Train Coach Mentor, but it's highly significant, the way that we apply this language. And it's absolutely paramount to be aware that when do you use the language of training, when do you use the language of coaching, and when do you use the language of mentoring, and to ensure that it actually matches your intention of the delivery. So if you're delivering a certain type of information or a certain message to your audience, or a certain conversation that you're having with someone you're mentoring, does the language you use match the fact that you are mentoring, and does it match the intention of what you wanted to deliver to them? Because if there's a mismatch, that opportunity to really make that information valuable to the receiver becomes less and less. And potentially also there too, you need to think about this for yourself, is that your credibility to deliver the message could be adversely impacted because they're not getting what they perceived they needed to get from you. Now, in this also there's each of these, the Train Coach Mentor, there's it's going to be more powerful for the type of information you want to deliver. Now start thinking about yourselves, what are the types of information that you deliver in your life, whether it's something you do at work, something you're doing specifically now as a person who trains, coaches or mentors, or it's something that's in your personal life where you're at home. Because recognizing how and matching up the specific delivery with certain types of information is really going to give the receiver a lot more value. And you also need to think of this in the respect of what is the preference of the receiver. How do they like to receive their information? Because that's another important one. You could be talking the best training language and delivering your best training session ever, but if it's not to suiting the preference of your audience, then it's just information that's sort of bouncing off the surface. Now, I shared with you, I've been doing adult education for 16 odd years, and I spent 20 years, basically, the whole of my career, when I look back at it, it's always been about in the mix of helping people strive to improve something in their life, to shift something in their life. I didn't know a lot about coaching when I was younger, but I just had a natural affinity to show up and go out and help people. Now, I can confidently say, without a doubt, I've stuffed it up on lots of occasions when I look back at it, because I wasn't matching my language with my delivery. So in some respects, I under-delivered. In other respects, I over-delivered. Other times, I was completely off topic. And I could see all these examples that I'd done, and which I now know I could have done so much better had I just had this subtle appreciation of when to use training language versus coaching language versus mentoring language. So specifically over the last 3.5 years, it's been an absolute intention of mine to practice this every day, to shift my language and be dynamic too when I shift it. So that if I'm taking someone through some information that I think is highly valuable to them, like I'm doing with you today, I think this is highly valuable. So I'm very dynamic in the shifts that I'll make in my language, so that I can cue people to when I'm shifting from training you to coaching you to mentoring you. Now, for the regular group presenters, I want to share one quick tip about how you can use train, coach, mentor in the training that you're doing when you're in a room. And lots of people know this who do lots of presenting. So this is no, huge, wow, look at me, I'm so good, I've got such a great idea, because I've seen heaps of people do this and I've learned it off them. So they use it in different respects. I've just applied it to train, coach, mentor. So if you picture that you're on a stage, you've got an audience in front of you, and you start to your right. So you walk to the right of the room. And I even get 3 whiteboards or 3 bits of butcher's paper, and I'll put them strategically, one on the right, one in the middle, one on the left. And so on the right, I write on the top of the butcher's paper, I write train. And so that's my training corner. So anytime I want to go, and it's a reference for me as well, so when I go back into that corner, I know to shift my language into training. And then I write in the middle, obviously this is very obvious, people, coach. So whenever I'm in the middle of the room, which is a very, very aligned, centered, everyone can see me equally, I can see everyone equally, the rapport is nice and good, I coach from that position. And then when I want to mentor people, what do? I shuffle over to the left, okay? And I stand in the left of the room to give that more advice and direction kind of information. So, and I find it really works well, because people know that when Rob walks to the right of the room, something training, there's probably some bit of technical tidbit that's coming out, something that's a bit of how, that it's actionable. And then when it comes to the room, he's most likely going to start asking his questions, seeking some feedback, looking to see if the information is being embedded. And then to tie it off, he'll move across to the left. And to really embed it, he'll give advice based on his own experience about how good you can use training language, mentoring language, and coaching language. Right. So, guess what, everyone? That whole first piece, do you think it's training, coaching, or mentoring? I'm not sure. I'm hoping we might get a bit of feedback. I've just got to turn on the right box. There we go. Training. Has anyone got any ideas what he thinks I'm doing? Training, coaching, or mentoring in that first piece? Tony says mentoring. I think a bit of all. Oh, that's good, because I'm mixing the languages. Coaching. I'd say coaching. I'd say mentoring. Those of you haven't done a very good job, because I felt like I was actually training. but that's all right. Oh, trained mostly. Thanks, Daniel M. Anyway, it's all perception. That's cool. It's just a demonstration of language. So I'm going to move into the next part. So I'm going to ask you, I want you to reflect on the last conversation you had or the last presentation that you gave. Right? I want you to think of it. Right? Try and just push my voice to the side for a minute as I ask you these questions. Can you hear yourself deliver? Can you hear the words that you are using? Right? What do you think you are doing? Do you think you are training people? Do you think you are coaching people? Do you think you are mentoring? Now, at this point in time, I'm just going to give you a small frame. I'm specifically dividing these apart because as a couple of my learning colleagues have already said, I think you're mixing it up a bit, Rob, and that's true. All right? But I just want you to think just specifically, would I be using language that is training? I'll give you an example. Like I said, it's probably more technical stuff. So if you're delivering a work at heights course, you'll be doing some real technical stuff about the type of equipment we use, when to use a fall arrest system, when to use fall restraint, these are the rules, these are the rules, these are the rules. Real technical stuff we need to be trained on. All right? And then we do some coaching, asking questions around, okay, now that you know all of this stuff in the training, here's some scenarios. Go work through these scenarios. All right? And then we'll do some questioning and we'll do some coaching around, you could think of it that way, but have you also considered doing this? So coaching becomes really about asking the great questions. And then mentoring would be wrapping it all up going, you will be really fantastic today, guys, and this, from my experience, this is what the most important thing is in doing work at height. Right? So that's how I'd example it. So I want you to identify that last conversation, that last presentation you had where you're trying to share information, identify it, and be confident that you know what you're doing. All right? Once you've done that, and I'm going to put these questions in a little takeaway for everyone. I'm actually going to give you what I've written down as my presentation today. I'll make sure that gets to everyone. Penny and Carl at SIA will help you make sure that happens. So now you're confident of how you're delivering. Now I'm going to ask you, well, what was your intention of that delivery? Did you set out to train, coach, or mentor? Now, yes, we can mix them all together, but we usually have a stronger intention around one of the three. Right? We usually have a stronger purpose to do one of the three more than the other. Right? So I want you to be clear to yourself. All right? That you're shifting in a very methodical way to doing one of those. So be clear on that intention. And then just the little alignment question is, well, now you know what your intention is, and now you know how you felt you were delivering. Are you matched? Okay? Are things matching up for you? And if the answer is yes, give yourself a why and make sure you explain to yourself why it is, because that's a validation. It shows that you actually get the subtle difference between train, coach, and mentor. If no, then ask yourself, well, what is the shift that I need to make next time? All right? What could I just do little subtle shifts in the way I deliver and the way I use my language? All right? It might even be just using the tip I gave you about splitting the room up. And then you can do that on a one-to-one conversation as well, because you can be very structured about your conversation. If you're mentoring someone, you go, right, I want to do this piece first. Here's my 3 dot points for training. Here's my 3 great questions for the coaching. And here's my 1 super cool statement that I'm going to use as a mentor. All right? So you can break it up and you can give a much more powerful experience for people who are communicating with you. All right? Remember, this is one of my remembers and my reminders. The conversation is always about them, not you. Someone asked, is it meant to be a video? I wish there was, but the system that they asked me to use today, just not talking to my video camera, so my humble apologies about that. I thought it would have been just a nice click and play, but we're not there. So think about that for the next time you're doing a conversation or a presentation piece. Giving the structure, taking people on that journey and using your story along the way. And it's not to tell a war story, it's to tell something with a purpose. Right? Tell a story with a purpose. Now, for the future. To sharpen your understanding, I encourage you to record your next presentation or conversation and listen back to it. Note to yourself where you felt you were training, where you were coaching, and where you were mentoring, and did it match the intention that you wanted at that particular part of the conversation. I also encourage you to, very much so, you're listening into a webinar today, I'd encourage you to listen to more webinars. Listen to what the speakers are doing. All right, go to workshops, go to other places where people are presenting, Toastmasters, whatever it might be. Listen to how they're presenting. All right, checking on them, you're going to check on them, for them, and pretty much to yourself to ensure, you know, is there alignment? So were they trained? Was it aligned? Were they coached? Did you feel it was purposeful? Right, that there was some sort of exchange of now it's your turn. And were they mentored? Did you feel it was relevant that their experience matched up? Again, it's all about alignment. And I guess the key, the action and the executable to take away is write out the key language that you hear that you feel is associated with train, coach, mentor, as it appears to you, not anyone else. I want as it appears to you, because we're all unique. We're all going to slightly shift our language when we're talking about training, right? So no one's going to deliver it exactly as I do, exactly as you do. But you need to be aware what is your language when you use train, coach, mentor. I've got a few questions popping up. I just want everyone to know that I will get to them. Is that? I'm hoping that's okay, Kelly.
Yeah, that's fine, Rob. No problem.
All right, good. All right, so I'm just finishing up. The last thing that I want to just finish with is the last 3.5 years has taught me very clearly that language really is the ultimate power. And you heard in my bio, I think we're lazy thinkers. I think we get a bit lazy with our language as well. And I can certainly put my hand up and say I was lazy with language a lot of times before 5 years ago. I was in it for myself. I was trying to be congruent and be in it for everyone else, but I usually spoke in the terms of I needed to get my role done, and my role was to help people, and I was okay doing that. But I really didn't understand how much of an impact I could have with the words that I was using. I was a bit naive to that. I've woken up to that, and I hope by today that you know, it's an opportunity for you right here, you know, to maybe have a look at yourself as where can I grow? You know, have I really focused in on the language that I use? Is it something that I'm cognizant of, that I'm really aware of? All right, so if language is the power, are you truly harnessing what you give to others to give them every opportunity to grow? All right? Or you might not just be aware yet, or you might just be stuck in one phase because you've been doing it for so long. And I find that this is the case with people that have been training for so long. They become training robots. All right? And that's a stretch. To get out of the training robot, we need to use coaching, language, and mentoring. And for the people who said you're doing a bit of it all, Rob, that's right. I tend to, because my now default setting, if you like, is more a coaching language. So I will tend to drag coaching language into training while I'm doing technical stuff, and I'll then drag coaching language up into mentoring while I'm doing advice stuff. Because I tend to coach, mentor, not mentor. That's just my style, and you need to work out what fits you. But the important thing is the alignment of what is your intention and does your language match to train, coach, or mentor. So right now is your opportunity to review and embed and maybe shift your language. And that's all from me. And I'll have a crack and answer some questions.
Question, yeah. So it says, Rob, in your experience with on-site safety management, on-site discussions with workers, do you agree the best place to be the majority of the time is in the coaching role?
Oh, geez, James, you're just playing music to my ears. Of course, yes, I do believe that. I think that is our, if I look at the future of safety from my lens and my perspective, it is certainly all about true coaching, really fostering the development of others. And the one way I see you can confidently and congruently do this is you've got to know how to trust yourself and how to lead yourself first. Because if you go out there without that squared away, people are going to see it, and you're going to struggle to have that impact as a coach. So that's just my pure professional experience opinion. And I've seen it time and time again with people that I've had as team members. I've seen it with my peers, is that they call themselves coaches, but they haven't done the work in the coaching. I used to call myself a coach before I was even done any of the work that I've done in coaching, and I can tell you I was not a coach back then. I was more a mentor. I was in training and mentoring. I would advise people and give them technical direct information. I didn't know actually how to play in the coach space. I thought by showing up, by just being a good guy who's really out there to look after everyone else and help everybody where I can, that I was being a coach, but I wasn't. I was falling way short. So if you really want to get into shifting and progressing mindsets, James and others on this call, and really understand what coaching is truly about, go and get yourself some coaching knowledge. You wouldn't go and do a confined space job without going and getting some confined space knowledge and a certification. It's the same with coaching. You just can't show up and say, I'm a natural coach. Humanity is a natural coach. It's a moral thing. We want to help people, but there's ways that you can do it on levels way above just having an ordinary conversation where you exchange some information and hope you have an impact on a person. Thank you for the question, Jane.
Rob, can I just add there too that going and doing that sort of learning in terms of coaching skills, etc., is an excellent example of continuing professional development. And so the SIA has its CPD tracking program that we need to all be filling in CPD that we're doing, and something like doing some training and learning how to be a coach would be a perfect example of something you could list in your CPD.
Yep. Okay. Rob, please take us. Sorry? Oh, you go, Kelly. You tell me which one I've got to answer.
I'll read them. So Tracy C is next. Any specific tips on using training, coaching, mentoring in formal and non-presentation situations, such as safety observations or toolbox talk? Perhaps mixing it up, but the traps or language to avoid?
I think the trap to avoid, definitely, Tracy, is speaking too much. That's a big trap that I found was fairly default in me for a lot of years as a safety professional. I saw it in a lot of my peers as well. I think that's the biggest trap. If you've hung around me at all long enough, if any of you know who I am, follow me on LinkedIn or watch anything that I do, I always say be present in life. And this is all about being present in the moment. So the tip, Tracy, is to be present in the moment, and you need to take that statement and work out what it means to you, so that when you show up at the toolbox talk, when you show up doing that safety observation, people actually feel that you're there. Yeah, they really feel your presence, because you are not just listening, you're not doing active listening, you're totally absorbed by what this person is telling you. You're genuinely interested in what they have to say. You're just not there to fill in something in your day. I'm not saying you are, but these are the perceptions that you've created. To tick off something on a monthly stat, that you're genuinely interested in that person. And when you show up that way, just look at the response that you will get. Now, any tips about the TCM? I think structure, do some homework. Before you go out and run that safety observation, you guys know your content backwards, right? And all safety professionals do, and it's a beautiful thing that we're so passionate about that. But do some homework. Put some structure around what you want to do. Okay, I've got this. I'm going out to do a work at heights observation, right? I want to make sure that their training knowledge is well in place. So think about, how will I test that? What will I use in training language? What technical stuff will I think about? And then think about coaching. What are the 3 great questions that you're going to ask that are just going to give you all the information that you need? And I've got a process that I work through on that. And I can't give it all away because this is stuff that I train people in every day. But all I can tell you that I educate people in, is that whatever the number 1 question is you're thinking of in your head, never ask it. Right? Write down 3 or 4 questions that would actually answer that question, because they're the best questions to ask. Because the one that you come up with as your primary question is the obvious. And you want people to actually think and lead themselves to the other answers, which will answer that question to themselves. Now, you might have to go back and replay that one a little bit in your head. I'm assuming we might be sending out a replay of this webinar. But yeah, so do your homework there, Tracy. What am I going to use to test the training? What are my great questions I'm going to ask in coaching? And then from my perspective, all the experience and the things I've seen working at heights, what is the one thing that I want to share with this group? It might even just be a validation to say, hey guys, everything I saw today was just outstanding. Why is that so? How did you get to that level? Right? So it might just be the mental comment, might be just a pure validation that you as the person who they perceive may be the expert, not the expert, but the checker or the person who's looking out for their safety, coming in to have that conversation with them. When you give them that, you basically give them the power to them. How'd I go, Tracy? Hope that nailed it for you.
Okay, Rob, our next question is from Trevor P, and he's basically asking you to give some examples of the language that's used in the 3 types for example, in work at heights or confined space training. So what's the difference in the language between training, coaching and mentoring? What are some examples?
You know, Trevor, that question is best answered when you and I sitting across a desk having a conversation, because there's something unique about you and the set of language that you use. But I will say that there's some slight generalisations we can make. I'll start with coaching because that's my passion, and you know, I do this every day. Coaching is all about questions, and it's all about the depth of the question. And you need to, like, you might hear some people say, well, you can't ask closed questions when you're coaching. And I say, no, you need to actually make sure that you've got the right variety of questioning, so that you might ask an open question. And I think one of the best techniques that you can use, the language you can use in coaching, is rephrasing, using their language back to them. Now, so if someone gives you an answer, you know, so what do you need to do before you do work at heights? Oh, we do pre-start checks on our harnesses. Oh, okay. So in doing those pre-start checks on the harnesses, what exactly are you looking for? Oh, we're looking for phrase, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Those phrasing that you're fine. Why is that a concern? All right. You might notice that when I start to talk like this, I'm very deliberate about not using safety vernacular about hazards and risk and things like that. And that's part of what I educate people in about shifting your language, is we need to actually get to the place where the people are talking. For mentoring, mentoring is a great story opportunity, I feel, James. So it's language around storytelling. So it's taking people through what was the particular event that you had that led you to coming up with the action that you took, and how do you keep implementing that action. So I feel that mentoring is often about action-based language, and these are just my preferences. Coaching is pure question-based language, rephrase, rapport, continued rapport, words that build rapport and trust. And training, for me, is that very direct technical stuff. It's dry. There's not much flair about it, but it needs to be delivered that way, because we don't want to cloak it with anything other than the key things that people need to know. I hope that was hope that's answered your question, Trevor. I think what I did say to Kelly and crew is that if you want to ask me specific questions or have a discussion outside of this webinar, the quickest way to do that is find me on LinkedIn. It's Rob.B, Lowe, L-O-W-E. Just connect with me and you can direct message me and we can have a conversation. So that's open to everybody on this webinar. So hopefully I'll have about 50 or 60 new connections at the end of this webinar.
Okay. We've got a big pile up of questions, and I don't think we've got too much time left, but I'll get through
do as best I can.
So
can I just make the commitment, Kelly? Any questions that are left over, I will do audio answers for, and Penny can get them out to people.
Okay, great. So James B is saying, following on from that, have you ever been accused of not doing much, seem to be just talking to the workforce when you are in that coaching mode?
Ooh, that's someone else's perception of you, which is always an interesting thing to dealing with. It comes back to James B. I've got to say to you, it comes back to this thing that I see popping up most with leadership in our organisations, and that is misalignment. You've got an expectation of what your role might be, and if you really feel that you want to be out there coaching people and fostering and developing them, but somewhere bolted, deep in your position description in the fine print, it says, no, you need to sit in the office and do a corrective action register to make sure you're doing 6 audits a month. Then there's a misalignment with the expectations. And I'd say if this perception is being generated for you personally in the workplace, or it might be just an example that you're seeing, then it's probably to do with expectation of alignment, because I think coaching is the greatest thing you can do. You can, if you're out there having conversations, I'll put a covenant around this. As long as it's resourceful and purposeful and meets with the intent of what your role is, all right, and the intent of what your role must be in that organisation. That is the key. If you're just out there flapping gums, then yeah, your perception is going to be created that you are, being accused of not doing much. Certainly you will be. But if the feedback from the people that, James is out there and he gives us such great days, there's always great intention with his conversations, and it gives us such great support, then keep coaching, mate.
Okay, the next one is Brian M, and I think he's just got a comment that coaches also need to continue to develop their own skills and gain experience, which is a good comment.
Certainly do, Brian. I've got 3 coaches, mate, and a couple of mentors just to keep up with the speed of what I feel I'm going through as growth, and it's brilliant. The insight that people can give you about yourself that you can't see. We all have, we all suffer from a bit of blindness. It doesn't matter how much you think you have a great mindset working for you and functioning. There's always things that it's not always a conscious blindness. Sometimes you just move past it so quickly that you didn't even see it. And you just need someone else to raise that with you and you go, oh, okay, I get that. So good comment. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, Deborah H. Rob, do you find that people's age, sex or experience impacts on their ability to be responsive to coaching?
Okay. Do you find, so age, sex or experience? I think it all comes down to knowing your audience, Deborah. So if you, there's a couple of things I want to say here. If you approach a person believing that age, sex or experience is something that's going to be a barrier between you having a great conversation, then of course it will be. Because what you're focusing on tends to show up for you anyway, whether you say it or not. We are clever art people. We are absolutely brilliant at detecting what's going on with other people. Even if we can't explain it, we just have gut feelings, or we say, it just doesn't feel right, because people are detecting stuff about you. So I think first and foremost is that you need to get good with the fact that you've got nothing that's holding you in relation to age, sex, or experience, so that when you show up, you're not showing up with any of that bias. Do I think it affects the ability to be responsive to coaching? Sure it does, because you need to adjust your approach, adjust your language. I don't necessarily think about the gender, the sex part, but I definitely would say age. But in saying that, it's only the introduction, it's only the setting of the rapport. I do work with a lot of younger people. I do some work in a Cert 2 course with 16 to 20-year-olds, and I've just noticed that as soon as I've got the rapport, I can talk about anything. So the key is the rapport to establish the trust, because once you have the trust, it kind of doesn't matter how you frame the language or use the language, as long as it means something to them and their preference is right for them. Experience, I don't think that impacts coaching at all. I think, if anything, what you would see is maybe just a slight variation in the thirst for your attention. So if it's someone who's really wanting some coaching and to grow, they're going to be really attentive to you. If it's someone who feels like, or really doesn't have an understanding of coaching, they're not going to give you as active an energy or response back. You just have to work a bit harder with them and allow them to understand about themselves that essentially they are their own coach. You don't use those words, but you've just got to be a bit covert and let them grow at their own pace. One of the key things I've learned as a coach is that everybody grows differently and everyone grows at a different pace. When you can see the pace of a person, please honour it and respect it. If it's slower than what you wanted it to be, you've got to let it be that. That is a very important thing about coaching. Here we go. Keep going, Kelly. I'll keep going for as long as you say so.
Okay, so I've just been told that we can keep going for another 15 minutes. So we'll try. We'll keep trying to get through all the questions. So Tony M. I've just had my screen move. Tony M. Online searches differentiate coaching and mentoring by the time of interaction, short and long term respectively. Can we effectively mentor in a single session with more than one student, trainee or mentee?
I would say yes, you could. Sure you can, Tony. Do you want a long answer? Or short answer good enough? I think you can. One thing I keep coming back to, everyone, is your presence. If your presence is good enough, right, and congruent enough, and it has the right amount of energy, but it's got these people absolutely attracted and enthralled with you, then of course you can. But if it's not matching up, if the intention of what you want to deliver in the language and you're not matching up, then of course you can't. You're just not going to do as great a job. You'll do a job, but it just won't be a great one. As opposed, the comment about short and long term respectively, I've had a mentor in my life, the same mentor for 3 years. and I've had the same coach for 2 years. I've got some solid long-term relationships, and the reason I keep them is because of the high value I place around rapport, and that these people really know who I am. They know where I'm driving to go, and they're just staunch supporters, and they're also very staunch with their insight and perception about how I'm showing up and what I'm doing. So, as I say with everybody, I trust that that answers the question, but if it doesn't answer the question, find me on LinkedIn, direct message me, and we'll make some time to make sure we do get the question answered.
Okay, Brian M's got a statement, I suppose, that he's wanting to make.
Yep.
So powerful questions lead to insights for the client, and that's what counts the most.
Yep.
The insight derived from the questions, that light bulb experience for the coachee.
100% agree, Brian. You're right on the money, mate. The job there of you as a coach, Brian, is to be the insight, I often say to people, I am the question, you have the answer. I'm not here to give you one. So you're right on the money, Brian. Well done.
And Kerry R., how do you approach a situation where you observe a breach or violation during a safety visit?
Oh, geez, I'm having a giggle to myself. I call that one an age-old question. Look, it's situational, definitely. So who asked the question? Kerry?
Kerry R. Kerry R.
Yeah, Kerry, if you're still on the line, which I hope you are, it's a situational question. If it was people I didn't know, I can honestly say when it's people I don't know, I feel much more comfortable than people I do know. I'm not to say that I wouldn't approach people I don't know, but just that opportunity when you don't know someone to establish that first moment of rapport, the first contact is, a handshake or a tap on the shoulder or something like that. That's very, I'll use the word innocent, because we're approaching from the heart. And that's what you've got to be remembering here. You don't approach this one from the head. You approach it from the head, you're probably thinking compliance. You approach it from the heart because you care about that person or individuals that are involved. And if you think about it from that perspective, I think you'll be guided well, because you'll do everything to care for them. And these are situations where I think you have to begin with coaching, some questioning around what's being done, but not using questions which are basically elements of an offence. So, you're not trying to tease out the evidence, you're just teasing out your concern. And then when you found that, I would say shift to training, which would be your input if you have it. If you don't have it, it's going away and getting it, but your input with the technical information about how this matter may be resolved. And the mentoring might be, the mentoring will be, well, in other situations I've seen them do this, this and this, maybe we can actually do that here. Hope that sounded okay, Kerry.
Okay, Rob, I think we might wrap it up now.
All right.
There are a couple of extra comments there, and the last question from Brian M. I think is a quite detailed question, which I don't think we'll get time to get to, but I just wanted to finish up, Rob, if you could talk about SIA's mentor program and the fact that we're encouraging people to join, and that you've got plans for some specific sessions for people who are mentors.
Sure. Look, the whole fundamental behind the program, why I kicked it off, and I guess why the approach was made, is I'm hugely passionate about generational succession. So I want to make sure that we're putting the best that we have into our next generation of safety professionals. And that's why I put my hand up to run the mentor program. Well, not run it, set it up. I don't run it, it runs itself now. That was the whole idea, to make it organic. So we just, and a couple of other things, I wanted to give people the opportunity to build beautiful relationships between peers, more than it was just swapping a few posts, on LinkedIn or online, or having a phone call once a year, or rubbing shoulders at a conference with people. And also, I just wanted to bring to the awareness the great diversity and also the great passion that we have amongst our community of people that want to share their experience. And there's, I think, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, I know there's at least 40-odd mentors registered for the program. I don't know the exact number, but I think it might even be closer to 50. And these are 40, 50 people who are volunteering their time. I wanted to be clear about that. And I love the fact that people volunteer time to foster the development of others. And I think that is one of the real powers of the mentor program. And in that 40 or 50 people, we have got every gamut of safety covered at the moment. And there's some long-term experience, people in there who have got loads of knowledge to share. So if you're sitting back going, oh man, I'd love to know more about X, go onto the mentor site and see if X is there. And they are. You've got a free opportunity to go get a free resource, get a free mentoring, coaching, training session with this mentor who knows lots about it. I mean, it's an untapped resource, mentoring. And I often thought, I'll be very honest with you all, which I'm always in. 5 years ago, I was a massive skeptic. I would not have a mentor coach nowhere near my life. But things had to shift for me to realise that I'm not here to do it all on my own. It wasn't that I felt that I was the be all and end all, that I knew everything. It's just that I felt that I knew enough to do my job, and that reaching out for other people was not something that was natural for me. So if you're in that space and you really want to grow into a hugely impactful professional, whatever it is, be life or work, get a mentor in your life. And when you look for a mentor, it doesn't have to be someone who has necessarily been there, done it all. It might be just a very specific piece of information that you're looking for. A very, very important bit of technical information that you want more information on. It could be asbestos. It could be something to do with occupational health and illness. Something that you really want to nut out. And there's people out there with that expertise. And they're probably in the mentor program. So go find them. I believe Penny will make sure we put that mentor website link around so everyone can get on there and have a look, find a mentor, or if you want to be a mentor, register to be a mentor. I know a number of the mentors have also registered to be mentored, so they're making full use of the program, which is awesome. Anything else, Kelly? How'd it go?
Fantastic. So the sum up is we really encourage people to either register to be mentors or to be menteed or both. And there's plenty of information and resources available to them. And you're hoping, Rob, that yourself and Deborah will offer some specific webinars in the near future.
Yeah, got that. Yes. Certainly, Kelly. That was one of our, if you like, our give back to the people for volunteering their time. We want to give the opportunity to sharpen some skills, get some perspective, enjoy some growth in and around the concept of mentoring. And that was the purpose of today, was to open it up with looking at the language of train, coach, mentor. Because even when you're being a mentor, you're going to do some training, you're going to do some coaching, you're going to do some mentoring. They all, they mix together. But the importance of what I wanted to share today is you have to be very aware of when it's purposeful to use each one and make sure that delivery, your language, matches the intention that you wanted to the person that you're speaking with.
Deb, was there anything you wanted to add just in the last couple of minutes?
No, Kelly, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks, Rob. What a great job you've done of answering all these questions. And also I'd like to thank everybody who's shown an interest. And it's been great meeting many of the mentors and having an opportunity to talk to you about why you want to be a mentor. And I'll just support what's been said already, is make use of the program because it's there for everybody. So thank you for your time. Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, thank you everyone, and we may see you at the next mentor webinar session.
Thank you. Nice to be on the call with everyone. I have about 7 connection requests on LinkedIn. Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Deborah, Kelly and Rob for your presentation, and thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. Please stay logged in to take our online survey, which you'll be redirected to now. We thank you in advance for your feedback and wish you a pleasant afternoon.